Hey, what's happening? My name is D, and welcome back to another episode of Book Reviews with a Regular Dude. Today, we're going to be talking about Fearless by Lauren Roberts, the third and final book in the Powerless Trilogy. Yeah. I'm cool if it's all over. I'm cool if it's all over. Yeah. I'm glad it's finally over. But before we get into all of that, I gotta give a quick shout out to my Plus Ultra Don't Fretters, my top tier supporters on Patreon, JJ Valdez, Peggy Luhu, and Lauren. Thank you so much for your support. You're helping to ensure I'm able to keep creating content and put it out as frequently as I possibly can. If you also want to help support the channel, gain access to my private Discord server, and get my monthly video newsletter, make sure you consider subscribing to my Patreon at patreon.com/tfretter. If not, no worries, but please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. So, after my last video, I put out a poll being like, what should I work on this week? It was between reviewing this and the movie The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And for the first, 2 days, it was very neck and neck, but eventually this one won. And then I looked back right before I sat down to write this video, and League of Extraordinary Gentlemen won by, a couple of votes. So I'm real sorry if you were hoping for that one. I'm gonna work on that. Doing movies or shows takes me a little bit longer because it's a little bit more in-depth editing process, but I'm gonna work on that, and that'll be out within the next 2 weeks. Also, don't listen to me when I say a time frame with YouTube stuff. It never goes the way I hope it does because life keeps getting in the way. But I'm gonna work on it, and I'll be as quick as I can. I only bring that up because I just don't want people to feel like I'm ignoring votes or whatever. It's just when I sat down to start working on it, it was this, and then it changed after the fact. Anyways, we're talking about Fearless in this video, and if you don't know this book, I don't know why you would have clicked on the video. I do have videos on the previous 2 books. Do I do a series recap? Sure, why not? It's set in a fantasy world. Obviously, it's a romantasy. I think it's YA. Doesn't matter. There was a plague, and it gave everybody in the kingdom of Ilia weird hair colors and superpowers with silly names. People with no superpowers are marginalized, and they're called ordinaries, and they're the lowest of the low. If the king finds you, and your whole family, or rather he'll send his enforcer, his son, to do it for him. The story is about a young woman named Peyton Gray who is an ordinary orphan living in the slums of Ilia, and she's using her Sherlock Holmes-esque deductive skills to pretend to be a psychic so that she doesn't get found out or whatever. She lives in a fort made out of garbage with her best friend Adina, who loves to make dresses. One day she pickpockets the enforcer / the prince, and then saves him from being attacked by revolutionaries or resistance members or whatever. And then she randomly gets entered into the trials, which are like the Hunger Games, but not nearly as interesting and with less of a point. And she has to live at the palace. She has a weird flirtatious rivalry with the enforcer, Kai, and she also befriends his older brother, the heir to the throne, Kit, because we're really good at naming things in this series. And she hates the king because he killed her dad. The resistance finds her and recruits her and convinces her to manipulate Kit into showing them how they can infiltrate the Colosseum on the final trial. So she betrays Kit, and then there's a big fight, and then she kills the king, and then the second book is basically Peyton on the run, and Kai is chasing her. It's kind of like romantasy Catch Me If You Can, but not nearly as fun. And Kit's the new king, and he's going insane. And the second book ends with Kai and Peyton confessing their love for each other without saying I love you, and then him bringing her back to court anyway, and Kit being like, we're going to get married. And that's where the book picks up. So in this video, I'll go through my initial expectations, do a spoiler-free review, and then a spoilery review, and some final thoughts at the end. Time codes are down below. Skip through as the spirit leads you. My initial expectations were low. They're very low because I haven't liked the previous 2 books at all. It's so Tumblr coded, edgy, Soul Eater, the anime. I can't with the narration style and some of the repetitive, redundant, poetic prose. I don't like this series very much. I think my reviews on this series are part of what gives me the reputation for being a hater. I think one of my patrons read this before I did, or at least they're posting about it in the Discord server. They made it sound like it was the dumbest thing they'd ever read, or it was the worst thing they ever read. And honestly, like, I know the bar isn't set very high, but I feel like this is probably the best in the series. Like, it's still not good, but it's not as bad. Moving on to the spoiler-free section of the review, this is where I break down the book into 4 different aspects using the 4 C's of storytelling. That's character, conflict, context, and craft. And I talk about each of those aspects without, or doing my best to not spoil anything. So starting with the characters. In this book, Peyton Gray is no more likable than she was in the previous. That said, a lot of what she's gone through in the series and all the loss that she's experienced and the revelations that she's do you experience a revelation? The things that she's found out have made her maybe more of a sympathetic character than originally. Like, she was, you know, like, character already had like a traumatic backstory, but she was so arrogant and edgy, like unyieldingly edgy in the first book, that I found her really annoying. It's almost like because of the events of these previous 2 books, her edges have been smoothed out a little bit, and you know, I'm not rooting for her. I'm not liking her more, but I am seeing like self-reflection and like some character growth. Like, this is not exactly the same person as in the first book. And I would say some of the other MCs in these like book talk darling, romantic-y looking ass books, they don't change from the beginning of book 1 to the end of book 7 or whatever, however many books are in the series. Whereas I do see the character arc. I don't know if it's very masterfully done. I don't think it's like that deep, but it's there, and that's, you know, a cut above some of other books in this genre or category or whatever. I also think that, like, in order for, like, if a character like this did a complete 180 and was all of a sudden like the most charismatic, likable, considerate, easy to root for character, I would find that really hard to believe also. So, you know, like, I think you can kind of see it in this book where the author has certainly grown and matured in her writing, but has also kind of been locked in with like, these are who the characters are, this is what the world is, this is how things work, and there's only so much you can retcon without really pissing off fans or really confusing critics or whatever. To me, Kai's character arc has been gone from bad boy to sad boy. Every chapter narrated by Kai kind of reads like it's a poetry book published by Button Poetry, written by the lead singer of Fall Out Boy. There's just times where he's going off about how sad he is, how much he yearns for Peyton, and I'm just like, okay, Neil Hilborn, like, relax, you know, this is annoying. I'd say he's like less likable than in the previous 2 books, even though he wasn't really likable. He went from edgy Shadow Boo to edgy Shadow Boo Hoo, if you know what I'm saying. And with Kit, it's interesting because, no spoilers, but like, he's not well, and some of his motivations feel like an afterthought. Like, the author knew that he had to play the role that he plays in the plot, and so there's some revelations around Kit that don't make a lot of sense, and his motivations don't really make a lot of sense. And I think part of that is also that they're trying to write like a mentally unstable and unhinged character. And it's not super compelling because he just seems really chaotic, and it's not like fun or charming or whatever. Like, there are some villains that are very chaotic, who just kind of do shit, and it's kind of scary, or it's kind of compelling of like, what are they gonna do? They're very unsettling. Like, this is such a random reference, but like Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls is this character, this presence of like very chaotic. You have no idea what they're going to do, but you know they're in control. Whereas Kit reads more like, I don't know, like chaotic and not in control. And it seems at times I also want to make this character kind of sympathetic, but there's just too much going on, but not really any time is put into fleshing out any of this or making it interesting. So Kit just kind of is a miss of a character. Moving on to conflict or plot. There are a lot of twists and revelations in this book. Most of them don't really mean anything. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of missed opportunities to do like interesting things with the plot, and the plot really suffers for that. Like, it's cool ideas or like interesting things, but they don't do anything with them. This is really, I don't know if this is like mean to say. Like in a way, I don't know how I feel about saying this, but I am glad that they didn't follow every thread or whatever. Instead of like tying up all these loose ends, they just cut a bunch of them off. And the series is only 3 books long, because there are other series that I've read that clearly only had like a trilogy's worth of ideas, but have decided to stretch those ideas out over like 5 or 6 books. And so most of the series reads like just filler and smut. Sorry, Fourth Wing. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, where was I? Yeah, a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of things weren't explored, and so the plot's kind of like disappointing in a way, because it does not a lot really happens. Moving on to context or world building, we go to a new country for like a couple of pages. Nothing really interesting there. We don't really see how other countries do politics, or how they're structured, or what their society looks like. You know, we had a little bit more of that in the second book. We do learn a little bit more about like the relationship between Ilya and some of these other countries, but it's not super interesting. And it means nothing for the plot, like truly nothing. And like I've said it before, I'll say it again, like the name of like people's powers and stuff like that, like somebody with super strength being called a brawny just sounds silly to me, or like somebody who can teleport is called like a blip or a blink or something like that. Somebody who can use air bending is called a gust. It's just like, I get the naming stuff is hard. I feel like you didn't really need to name all the powers. You could have just described them, and that would have been fine, but, you know, whatever. In this book, the author seems to try to avoid using people's names, or the names of the powers and stuff like that, because, I don't know, maybe she saw my videos and saw how much I hated it and was like, all right, I'll cut this guy a break. Lastly, let's talk about craft. I've said it before. I'll say it one last time. The active first-person present tense is really jarring to read, and it reads kind of like the characters themselves are having an out-of-body experience, and they're watching things happen to themselves. And so it really takes me out of the story. It's really jarring to read. And there's a lot of like sensations are described the same way over and over and over again. Like Kai feels the warmth of alcohol on his tongue like 5 times, and it's really annoying. You know, it's very flowery and poetic in a way that's like, it's like the perfume is too strong and it's too sweet, and then it's also like repetitive and redundant, and it's just too much for me. Not crazy about this writing style. Again, I feel like the author can't just switch up the narration style or how this book is written. And so I'd be curious to read whatever she puts out next, because I wonder if it'll be very different. Because I think Powerless came out when she was like pretty young, and I think she's grown since. So I'd be curious about that. You know, like I don't know. I sense somebody's like gotten better at their craft over the series, but has kind of been limited by the choices that were made by a younger self, which is interesting, right? Like I don't know if in the other series that we've reviewed on this channel really faced that yet. So yeah. Okay, moving on to the spoiler review. This is where I read the notes that I took while I was reading. So if you don't want any spoilers, like what happens in the book, you can just skip to the end or go watch a different video or something. I don't know. Chapter 1, Peyton is like, getting engaged is worse than the death sentence. And, you know, I get it. Commitment is scary, but I feel like you're blowing this out of proportion. Kid explains that the kingdom of Ilya has fallen apart and they need to embrace the ordinaries in order to save it. And so their marriage will be symbolic to show that Ilya is changing its ways. Go from like alt-right fascism to just right of center. Chapter 2, Kai's narration. He is big mad. Peyton has an anxiety attack, so he picks her up and takes her to a broom closet. There, he inner monologues like a slam poet, and they almost kiss, and the door opens. Chapters 3 to 4 are from Peyton's perspective. Ellie was the one who caught her and Kai in the closet. Peyton keeps freaking out, and she gets the queen's chambers, Lenny is stationed as Blair's guard so Peyton won't kill her. And for anybody who doesn't remember, because you have more important things to remember, like your mom's birthday, or to take that thing off of the stove right now, or to get your laundry out of the washing machine and into the dryer right now, Blair was the one who killed Dina in book 1. Chapter 5, Kai goes to talk to Kit, and they argue, and Peyton walks in, and they have some kind of weird agreement of like, all right, we're all in this together or something. Chapters 6 to 7, Peyton, some kind of banquet. I don't know. Peyton has a nightmare about Adina. Kai wakes her up and they sneak out. Chapters 8 and 9, they parade around and Peyton convinces them to go to the slums and it's bombed. There's a flashback. So there's random chapters in here that are kind of like flashbacks of Edric's perspective. Edric is the king from book 1, and they're written in the they're written in the third person instead of first. These don't really serve the plot too much, except for like a couple of revelations, but yeah. Chapters 10 to 12, Peyton has to do a new set of trials. She and Kai train together, kind of spar, and then do some like emo, I love you type dialogue, and it's annoying. Chapter 13, it's Peyton's perspective. She has dinner with Kit, and she's trying to mend fences and be friends, and I think Kit knows that she loves Kai or something. Chapter 14 is Kai's perspective. He's training new recruits, and he visits Peyton, and then he goes and visits his mom who's dying, and she's like, yo, I'm sorry that your dad abused you, dog. And like, I'll get to it later, but just this mom character, who is not really a character, is a terrible mom. You know, is just a terrible person. And like letting this guy like experiment on, torture, and abuse your son, and your motivation is just like, I thought it would make you strong. It's so up. Like, the text obviously knows that it's wrong, but like, even just, you could have written it like, I didn't know what he would do to you or me, and I didn't think I could stand up to him, would have been just like a different choice for the same effect. I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Chapters 15 to 18, Peyton goes to the Scorches to retrieve the first queen's crown. She falls in a cave and bats swarm her like she's Christian Bale. Bandits try to rob her and she kills them all. Chapters 19 to 20, Big Moody. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Peyton comes back. Kit suspects their relationship. And then we have an Edric chapter. The queen dies and gives birth to a newborn that is powerless. And if it's Peyton, that's hilarious. Spoiler alert, it is Peyton. Which makes all of this really fucking weird. Chapters 21 to 23, there's a ball to celebrate Peyton's victory. Blair is there and she tries to kill her, but then she's stopped and Peyton gets drunk. Kai drinks too. Drunk Peyton forces Kit and Kai to dance with her. Chapters 24 to 27, Peyton's second trial is to cross the shallows, which may have extraordinary animals or a kraken type thing. Kai demands to go with her. They're in the ship. Kai visits Peyton, and they hear fiddle music, and they dance. Then there's an Edric chapter where he commands that they get rid of the baby, and I swear if this is Peyton, I'm a laugh. Spoiler alert. It is Peyton, and I did laugh. Chapters 28 to 31, there's a storm, and Peyton has a panic attack, and Kai gives her a sticky bun. Imagine a sticky bun bring you so good you forget to worry about drowning. I didn't write that down well. But yeah, like, it's so funny. But hey, don't worry about drowning. I got you a cinnamon bun. Like, man, like, if I'm convinced I'm gonna die or something like that, and then someone's like, hey, don't worry, dog, here's a pastry, I'd be like, you, like, that's crazy. 3 crew members try and kill Peyton, and then Kai kills them. They meet the queen in Isram, and she's like, I hate y'all, but I'm gonna cut you some slack because I like Peyton, and she and Peyton have tea. Another Edric chapter where he talks about spreading propaganda and shit. Kai is not actually his son at all. I think the story was that Kit's mom died giving birth to him, but in actuality, she died giving birth to Peyton. a couple years later, but she was in hiding. And so she died during childbirth. And then the king's advisor, Callum, was like, oh, yo, marry my daughter who has a kid. And so they do that. And that kid is Kai. And Edric wants to keep him because he's so powerful. Chapters 32 to 40, they set sail and Peyton and Kai fight, which seems out of character for them. You know, for real. I was like, are you guys okay? What's up? This isn't like you. They are attacked by the Kraken and Peyton kills it. And they get back and there's a ball. Kit, Kay, and Peyton sneak into the wine cellar. Peyton sneaks to loot and meets Adina's lover at their old fort. So I'm aware that there is a novella from Adina's perspective that I think takes place like at the same time as Powerless before Adina dies. I didn't read it, but that's what that's about. Adina had decorated the place for Peyton's return, which I think is weird. I think it's weird that it's still there fully intact. I don't know, like it's the slums, right? So you would think that like some inhabitant would like just go in there and move in or whatever. Like take over or something. I just think it's weird, you know. Because also, how much time has passed? Because I could have sworn there were months between the events of the second book and the first book. Kai and Peyton exchange notes now, and Peyton confronts Blair, and a fire randomly starts, and Peyton burns Blair's face off. Chapters 41 to 43, Peyton's final trial is a fight to the death with Kai. And I guess Kit was tired of suspecting them. Peyton's like, damn, he fighting for real. Chapter 44 is Kai's perspective, and it's just Kai going, fight back, Peyton, which adds so much for the plot. Chapter 45, they keep fighting and kind of do a Black Widow versus Hawkeye thing. Kai stabs himself in the chest with Peyton's knife, and Peyton freaks out and is chloroformed. Chapter 46, there is another weird micro poem from Kai. And chapters 47 to 48, Peyton is locked in her room. Kai, who is actually not dead, kicks in the door and officially says, I love you. Chapter 49, they go to talk to Kit, and he's like, oh, yo, that's my bad. I'm sorry. Turns out the person Peyton fought was Mac, Adina's lover, in disguise. He has the same like magic power as Kai. 50 to 55, Peyton is getting a dress fit for the wedding. There's a press conference to announce Kai isn't dead. Peyton makes a scary speech, and they get drunk and hang out. Lots of filler downtime before the wedding. Chapters 56 to 59 is the wedding day. Peyton is sad. Kai is sad. Peyton rummages through the late queen's jewelry box and finds love notes and photographs. She deduces that Callum is 1, her real father, and 2, the mastermind behind everything. Then there's an Edric chapter that reveals that the king knew who Peyton was, immediately like recognized her as his late wife's daughter, and she was raised by the guy who adopted her or whatever. And like, yeah, real quick, there are so many times where Peyton talks about how like she doesn't have a father, or like the man she thought was her father but isn't her father and all this stuff. And then when it's revealed that Callum's her father, then she goes back to calling the dude who raised her my real father. And like, as an adoptee, I don't like that. Like, it's very confusing. Now that you know who your biological father is, you can appreciate your adoptive father, but you didn't when you didn't have an answer to a question. And I'm sure there are adoptees who feel more like Peyton and feel like the person, their adopted father, isn't their real father, or isn't their father at all for whatever reason. And like, me and my adoptive father don't have a good relationship, like really at all. So I do understand, like, it's complicated, but it is weird how like the text and Peyton's narration and stuff is like, as soon as it was revealed that she's adopted and was abandoned for being ordinary, like this dude's not her father and shit. And I'm like, then why all the hatred and revenge? You know what I'm saying? Anyways, chapter 60, Kai's narration, he's mad and he says that beasts don't get the beauty, which confirms that Beauty and the Beast exists in this fantasy world. And I find that shit kind of funny. It's kind of an anachronism. Like, I can't really tell what time period this fantasy world is supposed to be set in. A lot of these fantasy worlds, they want that medieval feel of like castles and kings and shit, but also they want like indoor plumbing and like pastries and shit that modern sensibilities like would recognize and shit. And it's a fantasy world. You can do what you want, but at the same time, that lack of consistency, it just kind of confuses me, and it makes for like it's a world building detail I don't really care for. In the same way, I don't really like it when people put jam in between layers of chocolate cake. Do what you want. It's your chocolate cake. You're the baker. I'm saying I don't like it. Give me chocolate all the way throughout. That's all I'm saying. I don't even like chocolate that much. I don't know what I'm talking about. Chapters 61 to 67. Peyton goes to Kit and reveals Callum is evil. Kit kills him. Kai and Peyton learn that Kai is not Edric's child, and Kit and Kai argue, and Kit reveals that he hates Peyton and has always hated Peyton because she is the wedge between the two brothers. And Kai is the only person Kit truly loves, and he's losing his mind. It's also revealed that the plague was man-made, and it was like a super soldier formula. And so Kit plans to replicate the plague and export it to other kingdoms so that he can rule all of the elites all over the world. Also, he took more of the plague so that he could get more powerful, and it's killing him and driving him insane. And Kit literally wants to, like, this is some Dr. Eggman shit right here. Kit tries to kill Peyton, and he and Kai sword fight, and then Kai stabs him through the chest, and then he dies. Then we get an Edric chapter where Callum, Edric, and Kit are all aware of who Peyton is and what her game plan is, because Callum and Edric are also the leaders of the resistance. Like, it was all like a force to try to, not a force, a farce to like round up all the ordinaries in one place. So Kit knew the whole time that she was manipulating him. Chapter 69, nice. 6 days later, they read notes that Kit wrote and document his descent into madness. 70 until the end. Kai is the new king. They get married and have a kid. They name her Kit. And the epilogue, Kit is in purgatory. I just realized it got darker in this room as I was filming, and so the lighting's bad now. Sorry. Yeah, I don't know, man. This feels like an achievement, you know, having finished the series on this channel. Yeah, but yeah, anyways, I didn't really like this book, but I didn't hate it, which I did hate the previous two. I would have to give this one like 2.75 to 3 out of 5. I feel like the writing is stronger. Because I'm not a fan, this doesn't bother me, but I could feel like if you were a fan of this series and you got the impression that the author is just trying to wrap this up so she can move on to a new series, then you might feel ripped off or gypped. But this is also maybe the only romantasy series that has like a truly conventional happy ending where the enemies become lovers, become husband and wife, and have a child, you know? I can't get over the, like, you married your half-brother thing. And they, like, never touched, really, so that's fine. But it's still weird. Like, it's weird. It's really weird, you know? It's icky. It's icky. But yeah, we ended on a high note, but not that high because you couldn't get that high. And yeah, like I said at the beginning of the year, before a lot of stuff in my life kind of happened to me, I didn't want to just keep doing booktube this year, and so I'm gonna try to, you know, do a couple of movies and stuff. Like, books will always be in the rotation because I do like to read, I do like stories, but I do want to talk about some other things. So but yeah, so I'm gonna talk about a couple movies, maybe another reality show in the near future. I might do some like just nerdy ass video essay type things. I don't know. Maybe my next book review will be Bury My Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab, because I just got a copy of that today. But anyways, yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you to Damien, Desi, Cassie, Eden, Shade, and Oliver. You are helping to ensure I'm able to keep creating content and put out as frequently as possible. If you also want to help support the channel, get access to my private Discord server and get my monthly video newsletter, patreon.com/dfredder for like discretionary entertainment funds. Like, I've had people apologize to me for not being able to afford like the $2 to $3 a month or whatever. I truly like it's all good. Like, just support the channel by liking this video, subscribing to the page, and hitting the noti bell. That's all well and good too. So please don't feel bad, and please don't feel like you owe me that or whatever. Because yeah, I'm just trying to make stuff that people enjoy listening to or watching while they do their chores and whatever. So yeah, thank you so much again for watching. My name is D. Don't fret. I'll see you next time. Peace. Yeah, but I'm trying to be healthy though. You gotta be careful with that shit, because when you become healthy, you become an asshole. Don't nobody want to go to dinner with somebody who counts their macros. You ain't getting a text back because everybody's worried you're gonna tell them about the life-changing workout plan. And yo, if you found God, you can go fuck yourself. Some people didn't laugh because they found God.